Yo, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. It's KT, your neighborhood personal trainer. And in today's video, I kind of wanted to go over movement. So a lot of people have issues with their hips, their knees, their ankles, all these joints that don't really allow them to move as well. I recently posted a full body lower workout video. And if you found yourself doing that workout, but were unable to successfully do some of the movements or really any workout regimen and you have these issues, then stay tuned because this video just might be for you. Alright, so first of all, let's just talk about how the knees, ankles, and hips are connected. So they are an interconnected system of tendons and ligaments. So pretty much, if y'all remember that song back in the day, like the knee bone's connected to the thigh bone, well, it's true. So when one of those is out of whack, it affects the ability for all the other ones to function. So I could literally spend hours going into the scientific version of this and how every single thing, how every little bit or piece may affect you. But to keep it short and sweet, I'm going to condense this to 4 things you can look out for. I'm also going to put timestamps in this video. So if you already know the issues that you have, you can feel free to just skip to the part that relates to you. Help yourself out. But if you don't know, then you can feel free to watch the whole video. But either way, we're going to go over them. So let's get into it. Okay, so first let's take a moment and look at what a normal squat looks like. So insert clip here. Take a good look at that. This is how a squat should look. Now let's take a second moment to look at what this squat looks like. So here's a variation of squat that I sometimes see people do. So notice how those heels lifted off of the ground. So obviously this is showing some kind of issue, right? Like your heels should not lift up as such. I mean, imagine going to the gym and, racking up the rack, having 150 pounds on your back, getting ready to go into the squat. And when you do that, you go down to your squat, those heels lift up, you begin to lean forward. I mean, this could be very dangerous. Like that weight could take you down. So it's important to correct these issues before you even want to get into actually adding weight into your lifts. So if you can't perform this with just your body weight, you definitely shouldn't perform it with any weight on the rack. So as you saw in that with the heels coming up, this is giving one sign of ankle mobility, specifically ankle dorsiflexion. So when you go down into a squat, ideally you are pushing on your ankles. So if you lack that mobility for that joint to move forward, your body is going to compensate by lifting the heel so that you can get into that depth. So that's one issue. Another thing we might see, insert clip here, is your feet turning outwardly. And normally in a squat, it's okay if your feet are slightly turned outward, but if you find yourself having to go this wide in order to get down into a squat, this could also be a sign that you have some ankle mobility issues. So without further ado, let's get into 5 exercises you could do to help with your ankle mobility.
First exercise, we're going to come all the way up on our toes and then let the heels drop. So it pretty much looks like a calf raise, right? Our second exercise, I like to call this knees over toes, as everyone else does. And so the idea is to keep your heel on the ground while you drive that knee over your toe. So that's really going to help with that ankle dorsiflexion. Next, we are transitioning into a lunge. Well, it looks very similar to the knees over toes, right? But again, this is a really great exercise for your ankles. So we're just going to toss it in there. Now this one works better on a higher surface, but the idea is that you're allowing your heels to drop all the way down and then elevating them. So again, really working that ankle. And lastly, we have a simple ankle flexion and extension. So you're going to sit in this position and then allow your ankle to go forward and back.
Okay, let's take a look at another clip. So here you will notice that my knees are caving inward. Now this could also be an ankle issue because your ankle could be collapsing inward, causing those knees to come in as well. But the issue I want to address here is this also could be a glute activation issue. So ideally when you go into a squat, your glutes should fire, causing that muscle to pull out and allow you to get into that depth. But if your glutes are weak and they don't fire, this is going to cause those knees to collapse inward because you don't have the strength to maintain the leg placement in order to do the squat. So here's another 5 exercises you can do to strengthen those glutes. Okay, here we got clamshells. So you want to line your feet nice and slow, maintain that tension, up, down, up, down. Really get the glute going. Okay, next we can do a donkey kick with a pulse. So you want to keep that 90-degree angle, bring that leg up, and then just keep it there as you pulse backwards. Okay, and then we can do hip thrusts. So all you need here is something where you can elevate yourself. So a chair, your couch at home, at the gym. Now put just your upper back on it. Step out. Let those hips dip all the way up. Squeeze the glutes. And down. Boom. Boom. And I also want you to keep in mind that there are like thousands of exercises you can do, but I'm only giving you 5. So if you want to do more beyond this 5, then feel free to do your research on the internet. How can I strengthen my glutes? Exercises to strengthen my glutes, and you can do more of a variety, but I just wanted to give you 5 here, just as a disclaimer. So the last issue that I sometimes see with people is the lack of depth. It's such a weird word to say. Depth. The inability to really get low in that squat. So I'm going to chalk that up to knee tracking issues, but also hip mobility. So as I mentioned previously, glute activation is important when it comes to squats. But think about where your hips sit, okay? Where your glutes sit. So glutes here, the hips here. So, they're very near each other. So if you have lack of mobility in the hips, that's also going to affect your glutes. So again, they're interconnected. So being able to loosen up those hips and strengthen them as well, because tightness also limits mobility, right? So you want to have loose hips, but you also want to have the strength to be able to combat that. So here are 5 exercises you can do to increase your hip mobility. One of my favorites, the 90-90. So you want to put a 90-degree in this knee, a 90-degree in this one, and then we're just going to rotate that. 90-90, 90-90. So really open up those hips. Try to get your leg down as far as you can, because that is the goal. We can also do a butterfly to frog stretch. So butterfly, and then I like to turn that around into frog. Next we got the pigeon stretch. So you want to get that 90-degree here. And then we're just going to rotate back. So if you can't get your knee all the way down, then you need to open up a little bit more. Alright, next we got the hip flexor stretch. So 1 foot here, bring this foot back, and then we're just going to lean forward to really get a stretch right there. Alright, this one I call hip cars. So you want to bring the knee up, open it up, swing it back, bring it back around. So that'll really open up that hip as well. Now, I mentioned knee tracking. So when you flex or extend your knee, your patella is supposed to stay in the groove. And if it doesn't, then you will find that your knee is either moving inward or outward of the knee when you're doing a flexion or extension. So this is obviously no good. This shows that we have some issues with tracking. So if you notice that when you're doing squats, or you're walking upstairs, or you're going downstairs, or you're doing any kind of flexion or extension, and your knees are making popping or grinding sounds, this could be an indication that you might have some issues with patellar tracking. And that is going to affect the way that you work out, the way that you do your squats. So one issue with that could be just strengthening your quadricep muscles. So think about where your knee is placed and the muscles that are above and below the knee. So having some strength in the quads will help your knee do less work, right? But also, again, that tightness. So if you have really tight quads, if you have really tight hamstrings, if you have really tight calves, that's going to put a strain on your knee. And again, that mobility. So being able to stretch those muscles out, but also strengthening them is going to be key in that motion. So let's get into some of that. So here we can simply practice standing with the toes in a neutral position. So, I walk sometimes and I walk like so. So I've been getting really better at trying to keep my feet straight so that my knee stays in the groove. We can do single leg squats. So if you just raise your foot pointed forward and then just slowly bend the opposite knee until this foot touches the ground. And then try to keep that knee as stable as possible. Here. Down till the heel touches. Down till the heel touches. Next, we got straight leg raises. So we flip. So we'll lie down. You're going to point your toes towards you. And then you're going to bring that foot up until it's aligned with your other leg. Slowly bring it down. So the point of flexing your toe towards you is to contract that quad muscle. Okay. And then obviously I mentioned stretching. So whether that's with your hands, a foam roller, a tennis ball for the calves, just anything you can do to really stretch and loosen up those muscles. And I'm really sweating just from doing these small little exercises. That's wild. All right, and then we got wall slides. So let's demonstrate that. So get on the wall, bring the feet off a little bit, and then you're literally just going to do that. You're going to slide down the wall, slide back up. Slide down the wall, slide back up. I'm just like in love with this zoom effect, so you might just see me throw in a random zoom effect in one of my videos or off. Just don't be alarmed. Let's proceed on. Let me throw in a disclaimer real quick. I am not a physical therapist and I am not a physician. So this here is not medical advice. This is simply things that I have seen with working with a lot of clients, and they're tips that I think will be helpful in helping those issues. But if you suspect that you have an actual medical condition or you have something serious, then I highly recommend consulting your physician, because I'm not giving medical advice here. So just want to throw that out there. Okay, well, thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I hope that it helped and there were some useful things you can take from it. I highly encourage you to implement those movements into your workout routine on a regular. It's going to take some time to fix these habits and fix these issues, but if you stick with it, with all things come with time, so you will get there. Share with a friend, someone that you know might need these kind of issues or have similar with you. Like the video if you found it helpful. Subscribe if you want to see more, and per usual, on this page we always crush it, so make sure you do too. Stay tuned for the next one.